Wandering Winder here with an installment of the Dominion Homework series, an idea which I have shamefully stolen from RTT. So go check out his videos in the series from the channel that I will be linking in the description of this. He has some really good things on Guildhall combos from this, Salty Earthen Baths, as well as some others, and they're really nice to know and check out. But basically, the point is you look for things that you should be aware of going into a game, whether that's a really strong combo that you maybe just go for that combo a large percentage of the boards it's on, um, or in the case that I'm covering here, which is Money Spices, it's just a baseline given that if this is on the board, this one's just one kingdom card. It's something that you can go for. So I'm covering Money Spices today, which is something that can almost always be improved upon. So for instance, looking at this random board, I'm not sure whether or not Jack improves it or not, because when I say Money Spices, I mean literally you're only getting silvers, golds, provinces, and spices. Duchies, maybe you have to adapt to the game state, right? But like Smithy is definitely going to be better than one of your silvers here, so you should open that on 3-4 given that opportunity. But I'm not going to do that right now. I am just going to look at what you can do opening with cards that'll always be available with spices. So you have about a 47% chance of hitting 5 on turn 3, which is the ideal situation. Hitting it turn 3 versus turn 4 makes a difference for reasons that will, well, I'll explain now. So I hit 4-5. If it would have hit 5-4, I could have bought spices on turn 3, had 2 coffers, and then when I had 4, spent one of those coffers to get another spices. And effectively, compared to where I am here, what I would be up is that I would have one more coffers and a spices instead of a silver. Now, spices versus silver isn't that big of a deal, but having the extra coffer is, because that's basically the strategy here, is that you're just trying to, you get spices over gold and you're trying to amass enough coffers that at some point you just blitz for green and province every turn. Um, so you'll see here, now I have, I actually hit 8, which is pretty unusual. I'm going to get a spices because I have the spices with the plus buy. I don't want a green yet, it's too early. I'm going to get a spices and a silver. And here I could spend 2 coffers to get another spices because I'll get the coffers back. Or I could just buy the silver. The only reason it really makes a difference is occasionally the plus buy is useful, and then the spices pile can run out. But this is not very important. Now, if I would have 4, I definitely want to spend 1 coffers to get a spices because that net increases my number of coffers. But here, this is not a big difference. 6, you don't want a gold, and I'm pretty sure you don't want double silver. I think you just really want spices. Actually, gold is usually better than double silver, and spices is definitely better than gold. So spices should be the thing here, and you don't want to spend 2 coffers just to get a silver. 1 coffer I think you would spend to get a silver early enough, um, but actually we should do some thinking here. So I have 4 coffers, and if you've been keeping track of my deck, I have 3 spices and 4 silvers. So that's effectively 7 silver equivalents, along with my 7 coppers. So that's 7 times 2 is 14, plus 7 times 1 is 21 money in a 22 card deck, right? I have, or a 17 card deck. So I have 22 money and 17 cards. I'm most likely going to miss 2 to 3 money is going to miss the shuffle here. So let's say if 2 money misses the shuffle, that leaves me with 15 money and 17 cards. You divide that over three hands, and it's not enough for me to go province, 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 and get them all. Having said that, um, we're looking at average hands of about 6, so I could spend a couple coffers here and get a province and already start provincing. So let's take this a couple different ways. Let's start doing that here, and we'll see where we run out of gas. and we haven't run out of gas yet. So here I could have the choice between spices silver or getting a province, and I'm gonna go for the quick province strat. So I actually drew pretty well. Bad stuff missed my shuffle. I can get another spices here on turn 9. And now I have 6. I can spend 2 coffers again. And I hit 8. So I get a bit lucky here, and I still get to 4 provinces on turn 11. Usually, it's fairly likely that you can get to 4 provinces on turn 11 if you hit spices on turn 3. But if you hit spices on turn 4, you usually have to wait a little bit longer. But the point of the strategy that I'm looking at here is that if I would hit 5 ever, I'm going to get the spices. If you hit 7, you usually say, okay, I'm going to get the province. If you hit 6, it's kind of a you have to see. In general, in a real game, it's usually not about just strictly blitzing to 4 provinces because you need to be able to do something after that. So you have to play by ear, though, how much it is a blitz to 4 provinces versus being able to get a 5th province or some duchies or empty the provinces or what have you. So but we've been playing the blitz for 4 strategy here. And because we did that, we greened a bit early, which means that we're not playing optimally to do the other stuff. Though now I'm going to say, even though I did this, how fast can I close out 8 provinces? And again, getting more spices here is actually increasing my econ. So this shuffle I've seen 7 money, and then this turn I saw 4 more. I've seen 11, and I've seen 16 money, and I've gotten what, 1 spices. So I have 6 other spices plus 4 silvers. That's 10. That's 20 money, 27 money, and I've seen 5, 7. It was 12, 16. So I only have 4 money left. Is that right? That seems low. If that's right, then I need to not waste on province here, I think. No, let's get spices. And let's get spices. And I probably miscounted there. I could double province here. I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to province here and basically be guaranteed to province this hand as well, and I can even pick up a duchy. So this isn't very fast to 8 provinces, especially the way I've played it. Although 20 turns is not horrible for a money strategy. But let's do this thing again and describe again. And okay, so we're going to ignore again this other stuff that's going on for a moment. Here we get the spices turn 3, but we only hit 3 here. This time I'm going to leave the spices. I think it's slightly better to get it, but whatever. Spices better than gold for this strategy. Not the greatest draws, but still pretty good draws. And here, so we have 5. Let's look. We have a 16 card deck, and we have effectively 6 silvers, and we have 5 coffers. So 6 silvers. We have a 16 card deck. Well, this makes sense. The 6 cards I've added have all been effectively silvers. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 7 from my coppers is 19 money. I'm probably going to have 1, sometimes 2, at worst 2, but most often 1 missing the shuffle. So I've already forgotten what I calculated. That was 19 money, so I'll probably have 18 money across 3 hands. So that's going to be 6, 6, and 6. And so I can't province every time, but it's close enough that if I'm racing for 4 provinces, I should already start provincing because I want to get spices when I hit 5 or worse so that I waste the fewest coffers. So here I hit 5. I could get a province, but then I won't be able to the next turn. So I'm going to get the spices here. And now with 6, we're going to get province. And now we have 7, and we can get province. And now with a decent draw, we could have gotten to 4 provinces by turn 11. It's a little bit hard to do that. Usually it's turn 12 is pretty safe. With the good draws, you can get it by turn 11. So that's kind of the baseline, basically. Turn 12 is the most common I think, number, because also you don't always hit spices on turn 3, although sometimes you hit 5-5 on 3 and 4, which is great. Um, but if you're just racing for 4 provinces, turn 12 is kind of the most likely. So I should be able to get it here, and I do. And you can see I've hit 4 provinces on turn 12. And now my deck is to such that I could get duchies for a couple of turns, most likely. Let's look at. I'm going to close out on provinces because I'm just trying to end this game. But if we look here, I get the spices instead. I would have had 1 coffers. I would have had a province here, actually. So I would have had duchy and a 5th province on turn 14. Not bad. Not bad for money. Um, we'll buy the province now. We'll get another spices here because I can't close out 3 provinces. Here we're not going to waste coffers, and we don't want to waste the spices out of supply, so we'll just get a silver. Province. Province. And nothing. Spices, and we should have it this turn. Okay, so turn 21 here, but again, I've been playing not to maximize my speed to 8 provinces, but my speed to 4. You should play differently, and we'll look at that coming up right now. If you're trying to get to 8 provinces. In reality, you're usually trying to get somewhere in between. Okay, so on 5-2, you open spices, and it is worth it to spend a coffers to get a silver. So you do that, and then you get a lot of spices. I think it's slightly worth it to get that silver on turn 2, but it's pretty close. Now, if I'm heading for 8 provinces, then I'm not at all considering greening yet because it's just too early. But turn 7, so I have 4, 7 silver equivalents in my deck, and so that makes me 14 money. So I have 21 money in 17 cards and 5 coffers. That's not enough to power through all of the provinces, right? If you look at, I'm going to have 17 money, and then I'm going to shuffle again. I'm going to have 17 more money. So that's basically like 6 to 7 turns, 7 turns, let's say, with where I'm making 34 money, and I want to be getting 7 provinces. 7 provinces cost 42. I would need 8 coffers to do that, so I don't have it here yet. So I should just get the spices here. Now with 7 here, it's a little more interesting whether I should go spices silver or I should go for a province. But I think it's still early enough that I should go spices silver. And now spices again. And now at the start of a shuffle, I should start provincing here. So I have, again, we're going to look at, I've added 11 silver equivalents to my deck. So I have 22 money from those, plus 7 is 29 money off of the treasures in my deck. And that's going to be over 4 turns. So I would need to spend 3 coffers if nothing missed the shuffle, if I hadn't stayed on bottom, or most likely 4 coffers to get 4 provinces here. Obviously, getting more than 8 is going to hurt that a little bit, but anyway, we can start provincing, and you see that we had a really bad hand here, and since I'm going for 8 provinces now, I'm not going to spend my coffers up to get to province. I'm just going to get a spices. If I were going for like 6 provinces, I might still province here. I might have also on that turn with 7 not gone for spices silver, but gotten a province then. But I'm going for 8 here. 6, I think I am going to spend up. Get province. We're going to get a province. We're at this point, so I have 3 provinces, so I have 5 blank cards. I have 8, 4, that's 12, is 24. I have 31 money across 5 turns. So if I want to get 5 provinces, that costs 40. I need 9 coffers. So as long as I don't overshoot it all, I should be able to, like I don't hit 9 or more on any of these turns, I should be able to exactly end the provinces of this shuffle. So far, so good. And hopefully I have counted right. This means I should have 8 in my last hand, and I do. So doing that kind of math helps. See, here I got 8 provinces in 18 turns because I was playing for that, right? Um, Obviously, it's going to depend a little bit on 2-5 versus 5-2 or whatever. Um, the other thing I would talk about with this particular um, strategy is that if I'm going for a lot of provinces and here early enough, I might take 1 gold. Because it's before turn 5, I'm going to see the gold often enough that I think that the extra money there is going to outweigh the spices difference, especially there because I already have a coffer. It's definitely right. Um, if I wouldn't have had any coffers yet and it was just 2 silvers, then maybe the spices is better because it lets me get a spices here again. That would have been close. Um, but here I've gotten some really good draws, and so I'm pretty happy with now. Here it's late enough that I'm pretty sure I still want the spices over the gold. Um, and this should be spices silver. Again, spices silver. And 1 more spices. And now we're to the point where I should be able to start provincing thoroughly. Again, I could probably take a spices here on exactly 5. And I hit a 9, but you're likely to do that at some point. I could have double province there, but because I was before a shuffle, I rather wouldn't. Um, okay. Now I didn't count this time, which you should do if you're actually playing this, but it worked out anyway. So again, 18 for 8 provinces if that's what you need. About turn 12 for 4 provinces, and that's just spices money with nothing else. Obviously, most kingdoms are going to have something else that you can add to it. But the point here is that you just track what you need and you only spend the coffers when you need to start spending them, and you try to build your money up and then green at the point that you need to green. So it's actually very interactive in terms of when you start greening because you have to know what your opponent is doing. And knowing when to spend the coffers versus save them and knowing when to get a gold versus the spices is a little bit tricky. The rule of thumb for the gold versus spices, I guess, is the last thing I'll leave you here with. If you are going to see the gold more than 3 times, well, 3 times is kind of the break-even point. More than 3 times is where you start to prefer the gold. If you're going to see whichever card you're buying more than 3 times, then it starts to become more advantageous to get the gold. If you're going to see it twice or less, you definitely want the spices. If you're going to see it exactly 3 times, I still lean towards the spices there, but it's a little bit close. It somewhat depends on how many coffers you have to be able to, say, turn a 4 hand into another spices. Um, and the reasoning for all of that is that, well, basically, you can spend the coffers every time the spices come up, and then it basically is a gold. And so if the spices comes up twice or less, you can do that, and you're better to have the spices because you can be a little bit flexible with when you actually spend the coffers or not. But in other situations, um, that come up, uh, you can not spend it. But if you're going to see the gold, four times, and the money is also going to be useful those 4 times. So like here, the gold was only of a marginal value because um, a number of the times that I saw the gold, I had like 6, and I just wanted to buy a spices anyway, so that didn't do that much for me. Um, I think it was still worth it here because I saw it. How many times did I shuffle after I got the gold? I got it on turn 3, so I shuffled at the end of turn 4. So that's 1, 2, 3 times, um, 4 times. So I saw the gold 4 times, and that's enough for the gold to be worth it. 3 times, I think I prefer the spices. Twice, then you definitely prefer the spices twice or less. Um, but you can add other kingdom cards too. So like here, you should get a bard. Um, you still want to be able to hit your first 5 very quickly. So whatever. Junking attacks are obviously still good, so you probably get a witch over your first spices. Or if you hit 5 on turn 3, you should probably go spices witch rather than witch and hope for it to hit double 5. Um, because you're unlikely to hit the second 5. And spices will then turn, if you have a 4 cost hand on turn 4, you can get the witch anyway and be a coffers up instead of having gone witch and then have to get silver. So, in general, spices can be used in a lot of things other than money because it just ups your payload very, very fast. And the thing about the drawing decks, one of the many advantages of the drawing decks is that you get to see the cards that you're adding to your deck and feel their impact more quickly. Spices lets you do that even when you're just playing a money deck, but it also lets you do that in every deck. You just get 4 money of payload for this non-terminal thing. If you're drawing your whole deck, you get 4 immediately. If you're not drawing your whole deck, you get the 2 immediately if you need it. And then you get to stockpile the coffers to spend them exactly when you need. Like we saw, if you're racing for 4 provinces, your deck starts to deteriorate if you really go hard to try to get them as fast as possible. But if you play just a slightly bit slower, it doesn't deteriorate that much. But because your economy is based on coffers, that is something that you need to be cognizant of. Is just when they're running out, and is what you've gotten enough to get you over the finish line. So if 4 provinces is somehow enough to get you over the finish line, then just blitz for 4. You usually need a little bit more. And well, of course, we saw earlier on that your deck doesn't entirely fall apart after you get to that 4 province point. You can still get some duchies, and at that point, when you're duchy dancing, duchy versus spices becomes very interesting because spices gives you immediate money that you can use the very next turn versus duchy, which is points. And so you really have to use all of your end game skill. It's not a boring, no thinking money deck. You really still have to use your game awareness to know what you need to be doing at any point in time. And your game awareness to know what other cards to add to get with the spices to help this strategy. Because if there's a card like Bard, if there's a card like Smithy, if there's a card like Gear, if there's a card like Courtyard, usually anything that costs less than 5 that's at least some benefit over silver, and economically beneficial, particularly, so where you're not slowing yourself down to start the spices train. Those cards are going to help you with the strategy too. But that's enough for this homework video. Watch out for more homework videos that I should have coming up soon. Let me know if you have comments or suggestions or things you disagree with or want some more math on this. But for now, this has been Wandering Winder, giving you your homework and actually solving most of it for you. But hopefully you'll be able to know a little bit more about spices when you see them in your games. Thanks for watching.